With that said, our next clients are just some pretty special people to me. I've known them for almost 40 years. I met them when I was a 19-year-old dishwasher going to college, and I was listening to Zig Ziglar tapes and Dr. Dennis Waitley and people like Les Brown and Jim Rome talking about success, talking about how to make it, talking about goal setting and having a positive attitude and helping other people and adding value. And I'm like, as a 19-year-old, I'm just soaking this up because prior to that, all I knew was rugby and fraternities called Itapacurs. And stuff like that, right? It's like, oh, yeah, I want to go to that fraternity. And, and I went to a private Bible college up north called Chico State. And those people in the 80s, early 80s, it was the number one party school in the world. Forget America. In the world, I'm like, perfect, I'm there. And that's exactly, I didn't go for the engineering program, this, that. I mean, I went there to play rugby, do the haka, and just be a man and drink beer. And I'm washing dishes because I have that kind of mindset, And I get a hold of these tapes, and I'm just soaking it up. And all the other dishwashers started making fun of me because I was listening to those cult tapes, and they'd listen to Zig Ziglar talking about enthusiasm and what it takes to succeed, running from failure to failure with as much gusto as you could, and eventually you'll succeed. And they're like, this sounds like a cult. Then they go smoke pot out back. And I just kind of went it as a fork in the road, the road less traveled. I went a different direction. And so my first mentor at 19 is in this room. I watched he and his wife, Diana, go on to just great levels of success, fly around the world on jets, build a, 12,000 square foot home, just pretty crazy successful stuff. And so they were a profound impact in my life at a young age. I'm thrilled they're here with us tonight. I love them. I respect them. Help me welcome from Northern California, Clark and Diana Broome, everybody. Woo!
Oh my goodness. All right, well, here we go, folks. So Clark and I have spoke all over the world, but I'm usually a little more familiar with my audience and the topic. So bear with me. This is just my story. The trauma I went through as a little girl helped to strengthen me for what I would face as an adult. And a lot of you, I know, get teary with what we heard yesterday. I've had enough miles behind me that it doesn't make me tear up anymore. I was molested by an uncle. I was raped when I was on a youth outreach, and my mom used me to hurt my dad when she divorced him when I was, in the 6th grade, I think it was. And then she abandoned me when I was in high school. So I was living on my own in high school, which sounds like it would be everybody's dream. But when you have to cash in soda bottles to buy your dinner, that was a little difficult for a little girl. I was in a dark place for a few years, and nobody in my family knew about it because the history that I had with being molested by a family member, I didn't think there was an adult I could trust. But after I had been in that dark place for a long time, I started to think there's got to be something that I can do. So I learned how to help others go through what I had been through. And so that became my rock. That was something that I could do. And one of the things that I never shied away from was helping others. And it's something that I've devoted myself to. Helping others is my superpower. When I'm more of the introvert, Clark is the extrovert. And so when we go someplace, you'll usually find me picking up dishes and taking them into the kitchen. That's kind of what I do. I'm in the back room. When we used to do meetings, I would take the children in the back room and I would play with them while Clark would do a presentation. So that was what I would do. I was a volunteer coach for our daughter's cheer squad for 4 years. I went to every blessed game. I went to every practice. I went to cheer camp. I hated every minute of it, but I went to cheer camp. I am not a cheerleader, people. But that was just, it was something that I could do. I had a checklist, and that was what I did for those cheerleaders. Who showed up? Check. Oh, wait a minute, you've got jewelry on? Check, check. So these were just little things that I did. I volunteered for my church. I also volunteered for our little Lincoln Police Department. Is Yuba City here? Yuba City? Yeah, thank you, Lincoln Police Department. Good to see you. So I would do patrol. I would do traffic control if there was an accident. I helped with the fire department to block the streets if there was something going on. I did fingerprinting, all of this kind of stuff. And now I'm a full-time caregiver for my sister who lives with us and has dementia. And so our granddaughter babysits her when we travel. And she's 25 years old. She's got 3 jobs, and she babysits my sister. She is a type A personality. She is going places. Clark and I got married in 1976, and we're closing in on 50 years. And like all things, it has not been a smooth road all the time. But he makes me laugh. He makes me laugh. And that was huge. Plus, he stuck with me because I was not an easy person. I build walls to protect myself, but he stuck it out. He's one of the good ones. He's my Superman. Clark. Hello. Yeah, my Superman. So, I helped Clark study for his real estate test back in 1977, and a lot of you probably weren't even born yet at that time. But he was determined that he was going to go the same route that his mom did, and so I helped him with that. And he jumped into it with both feet. And there was a lot of lean years because people, when you go from a steady paycheck to commission with nothing in savings, you go on a really quick crash diet. And it was not easy. It wasn't easy trying to raise a family on a real estate income during one of the toughest markets we've ever come to know. You think this is a tough market? Back then, it was nasty. C.S. Lewis wrote, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for extraordinary destiny." And so I believe that we're all in a place in time that is going to define us. And how will it define you? That's up to you. I couldn't help Clark with real estate because I didn't have a real estate license. But what I was able to do was I got a job at Placer Title Company. Clark's mom knew Leo French. I don't know if anybody here knows Placer. Yeah, okay. So Clark's mom knew Leo French, and so he got me a job in the title plant. And I loved doing that because, it was organization. I love organization. Putting together the details for preliminary title reports. And even now, I think I could put together a comps package in my sleep. But shortly after Clark got his license and I started working with Leo, then came the big crash of 1978. Oh, those lean years were not just for real estate people because we had the title plant. It came to a screeching halt. But at one point, Leo came in and spoke to the very small crew that was still left in the title plant and told us that he would make it up to us if we would stick with him and continue working. But what he was actually saying was that he didn't have enough money to give us a full paycheck that month. But we were dedicated to Leo, and we agreed to keep the plant going, which kept some of the few surviving realtors in business. You're welcome. And I love this quote by Joel Osteen, "What's inside you?" God told Gideon to fight an army of 135,000 men with only 300. You have something inside you, the seed of Almighty God. It will take you where you can't go on your own, and sometimes doubt will whisper in your ear, you don't have what it takes to accomplish that dream. Where are you going to get the funds? You're barely making it each week. Deep down, you can't explain it, but something tells you you can do it. You were created for this. Clark and I came to know a group of people through real estate who helped us on our walk in faith and our real estate business and a growing international business that is still supporting us to this day. We've enjoyed traveling the globe and speaking for businesses in many foreign markets. Just before the pandemic, we spoke in Russia, we spoke in Estonia, and we even spoke to a group of not English-speaking people in the good old US of A. But we unfortunately lost touch with a number of our associates over the years. But it's just prophetic that some of those people come back into our lives at just the right time. Thank you, Brent. So when Clark and Brent got together and talked about EXP, and Clark asked me my thoughts on it, I said, if Brent's involved, we cannot turn it down. We need to look at it. So I knew I couldn't help him in real estate again. So I got my real estate license in September of 22, and I've always loved to help people, and I can do this through EXP. I'm continuing to help people build their business and discover the passion of helping people realize the dream of home ownership. There will always be ups and downs in real estate, as in everything in life. Will you waste time looking back at the good times, or will you look forward to what you can accomplish now? You must make the decision. How many people will you bring along with you on this journey? In EXP, there's a place for everyone to fit in and succeed. Just being in this room is evidence that you're ready for something much bigger than you've known before. You can do it. You were created for just a time as this.
Awesome job. I could just let her continue. I mean, that'd be fine with me. And although I do have some things prepared, and I'll definitely be on time, James. I'll for sure do that. And let me see. Oh, my laptop went to sleep. Okay, there you go. Okay, good. Have to wear glasses. It's one of the things that happens as you get older. Doesn't have to, actually, but first of all, I want to really thank Brent and Kathy, James, Jean and Susan, and Rob back there. Just you guys are awesome, and it really has just been an incredible joy to be a part of this and to be a part of all of you. And Brent, I can't thank you enough. I mean, I was kind of struggling there for a little bit until reconnected with Brent, which I'll share a little bit of my story. Most importantly, all the glory and credit goes to my Lord and my Savior, Jesus. And he's responsible for all the success and accomplishment. I'm a hard worker, but he paved the path for me, and I learned a lot through the process. And I have to give the glory to him because I tried to do it my way, and it didn't work very well. And so I married God with my business years ago. Diane and I went through some troubling times she didn't really share with you. I have to thank her. I always introduce her as my first and second wife. That's another story. And my ex-girlfriend. And the mother of our 3 beautiful daughters and grandmother of our 3 grandchildren for putting up with me for the last 48 years, going on 50 here pretty soon, married. Of course, I married her at 9. Okay, but anyway, so she's always beautiful and looks younger every year, I believe. And behind every successful man, there's a more successful woman and a surprise mother-in-law. And that was definitely the case. And it's not the years in your life that count. It's the life you put in your years. And that's actually a quote by Abraham Lincoln. And so I want to share a little bit of my story. I grew up in a real estate family, as my mom, as my wife shared. She was an amazing lady. She was Realtor of the Year, Citizen of the Year, the first lady board president of PCAR, our local board. I resisted real estate for years. I was 19 at the time, having way too much fun, had a child, and we got married, had a child, and I realized what I was doing was not going to get me where I wanted to go. So I jumped 100% all in real estate. Stopped my steady job. We starved for the first couple years, didn't do very well, and I really learned. I hooked up with the best possible people. I got involved, I spent money I didn't have, got involved in the Tommy Hopkins Fast Start system, for those of you who've been around for a while, the Champions Unlimited. I was the only one in the office who really watched all that stuff and used it. And there, after a while, my volume started doubling every year, became #1 in GCI in both Placer and Sacramento County, #3 in total production. I learned to build relationships with people, and because I built relationships, I double-ended probably 85% of the properties I sold. A little bit different market back then, but I really built relationships. And I often, the realtor who handled the client on the other side, I also often ended up with their client because they didn't service their client, and they saw that I did all the work. And so that paid off really well. And I was having a lot of fun and in real estate. But the challenge was, I was working 12, 14 hours a day, 6 and 7 days a week. I used to tell people I only work 12 hours. It's deciding which, I only worked half a day. It's deciding which 12 hours. And unfortunately, that took a toll on our marriage. And we ended up separating for several years. That's why she's my second wife. We renewed our vows after we got back together. And when we got back together, I was still working my tail off. And so the challenge was the business model of that time. Was a transaction treadmill. There was no residual income. There was no way to have an exit strategy or ongoing life. I had real estate properties and everything like that, but I always seemed to buy them at the wrong time and sell them at the wrong time. And I was not very good at that. But so I ended up starting actually, we own the Northern California rights to Better Homes Realty in Northern California. And we started with 4 partners, and that was our dream to build that. And then we realized the challenges of broker ownership and franchises, and it didn't last very long. When I ended up going back to the company I started out with, or actually that I left to start the company, they were very gracious and took me back and got a chance to work with my mom. She actually worked at that company for a while. But in the meantime, a good friend of mine, fellow realtor, had the #1 office in our area, introduced me to network marketing. And I looked at that, and the model was unbelievable to me. I thought it was too good to be true. I didn't think you could really work hard and have that kind of residual income and so forth. And we got connected with a group of people that taught me personal development, that taught me communication skills. So we listened to Zig Ziglar, we listened to Jim Rohn. Just like Brent was saying, I didn't know this stuff existed out there. And I just got totally involved in it, totally immersed in it, and did 100% of it. And while working 12 hours a day. I just fit it in cracks of time. I just did whatever was necessary. And during that process, first major event I went to, I wasn't a believer at the time. I grew up in a faith-based family, but really didn't talk about that personal relationship and so forth. Went to a major event one year. Actually, when I first got involved in the network marketing business, called a Free Enterprise Day. And I went, and I was there Saturday night, and they say, oh, the function starts at 9 a.m. So I figured, okay, that's kind of early on a Sunday, but I went there. It was actually a non-denominational church service. Strong individual on stage was sharing his testimony, everything. They gave a message, and I came forward and accepted Christ in my life. And at that point, it didn't get easier, just got a whole lot better. And I had to turn a few things around. They say that, you reap what you sow, and I tell you what, sometimes you wish for crop failure. I was reaping a lot, or I was sowing a lot of bad stuff at the time, so I just totally turned my life around. Came home, Diana wasn't with me. Came home, and she thought I was on drugs, and thought that I got to mention, hey, we should go to church. It was totally off the wall. Anyway, so we got our life back together because we put Christ in our life, and we started working with the right principles, and that is you give to other people, you serve. Just like tennis, the one who serves best wins. And we just served and served and served, and I tell you, we didn't light it on fire. I'm not that good, but I realized the team was good. The team that we were part of was good, and I just kept plugging people in the team, plugging people. Met Brent through his dad, met people like that just kept sowing into him, and about 36 months, we started making a little bit of money. And then 18 months, we started making a lot of money, became financially independent, retired out of real estate, still kept my license, but my mom was my realtor, and she did really well in the properties we bought. And we lived this incredible lifestyle for decades. And honestly, I started getting a little complacent, especially around the pandemic. Although I did venture into some commercial real estate back in the early 2000s, some developing, some investments, and we got caught up in Actually, for us, the downturn started 2006. We had some sticks coming out of the ground and some developments we had, and man, we lost them all, lost millions. But thank goodness for residual income. I can't express that enough. What appealed to me in EXP is the ability to put something in place that outlasts you. Put time and effort into it and get time and money in return. Freedom of time, money, and location. And and Brent, I mean, obviously the success he's had with that, he's taken what he learned from us to a whole new level. You know, it's kind of like the student becomes the teacher, and the teacher becomes a student. And I'm a student of Brent. I mean, I just so appreciate the guy. I follow this guy, and I'm on every single event. And if I can share some advice from decades of building organizations, could we build an organization with close to 50,000 members, you know, agents, if you wouldn't call them that, in 31 countries in all states, all 50 states. And it wasn't me. It was the fact I found some good leaders and I sewed into them. And we had a system. We plugged them into the system. They grew to their potential in that system. And I just wasn't a roadblock to them. I helped them. And I set the example by the effort I put in and by plugging into everything. So if I can give you some advice, plug into everything. There's no exception. We used to have a saying in our network marketing business, and that is that the only reason you should miss a function is a funeral, your own. And now I know that's a little heavy, maybe a little bit occultish, but I can't tell you how valuable. And it's not inexpensive to do, right? My very first function, that Free Enterprise Day that totally changed my life around, I slept in my car in the parking lot. I just said, I'm going. The decision was to go, then you figure out how to do it. See, leaders make a decision, then you figure out how to do it. But you don't change the decision. And that's a very important thing. And so I diversified in that. And my EXP story is really interesting. 5 years ago, maybe it's 6 now, people I was associated with my other business, sat down with me for lunch and talked to me about EXP. Never showed me anything, just talked about it. I thought, oh, that's nice. I'm doing fine, and actually doing pretty good. Then about a year later, somebody else did the same thing. In fact, Brent came in for the follow-up, but he knew at that point, the person that was sharing it with me, I was not interested. And then, about 2 years ago, a good buddy of mine was part of New Vision Realty. And then New Vision, I knew Steve Hillier about the same time I knew Brent. And I was having lunch with Don, is his name. He's my business partner in this. And Steve Hillier was there. And he says, I'm taking my whole organization, 214 agents, over to EXP. And I said, what? Because a few years earlier, he said it wasn't going to work. And so I kind of confirmed what I thought about it, what he said. And here's the difference. And this is a lesson. Don't always show the model explained to somebody. If I would have seen that, and of course it was Brent doing it at that time, it would have made all the difference for me. Now, I don't know if I got in back then or not, but man, it probably, because I was ready. I was looking. I was complacent where I was at. I needed a new challenge. I needed to get more fire in my belly and everything. And then I got involved in that. And one thing I know, it's not easy to build this business. It's just worth it. And it takes time and effort to build it. And probably the difference between me and maybe somebody that hasn't had my experience is I know it's normal. I know what we go through is normal. You have the no-shows. Incidentally, there's never a no-show. It's a half show. You're always there. So I just kept doing it. And what I'd like to do is kind of give you a little bit of tips on agent attraction from my experience. And so I'll just go through here, and I know I'm not going to get through all the slides, but first thing, have a vision board. Absolutely necessary. I was taught this the first day in network marketing. Have a vision board. So important. Now, this is an old one for me. My new one's totally different, and it's right in front of my desk. I look at it every day along with my wealth chart. I look at it every day, and my wealth chart, I kind of like old school like Brent. It's a 8x11 yellow pad with all it written out. And now I have the formal one too, but it only has front line on the formal ones. I like to have the depth on it. And I made a big board. I mean, this board is huge in my little office in my house, and I use that. And so here's the thing. They talk about emotional quotient. They talk about intelligent quotient. What's your burning desire quotient? I think that's the most important. Hunger is everything. I learned one thing in building a large organization. If I had somebody who had hunger, it didn't matter what their background, their skill is, I could teach them everything else. Or the system could. It wasn't me only, it was the system. I never relied on myself. I always deferred to the system and the program, because the process of duplication, if you're the only one that can do something, you'll be the only one doing it. And you're going to have a very small organization. You got to have everything that duplicates. It doesn't matter unless it duplicates. And so I had a very strong burning desire. This is kind of with Diana's, look at Diana over there. Isn't she gorgeous? I mean, anyway. That's, of course, obviously in the 70s, obviously. And so that's me on the phone trying to close a transaction, rocking the baby. And there's a story there that I'm not proud of. And then when Diana was giving birth to our second child, I was in the delivery room while she's breathing and trying to close a transaction that was falling apart. Not proud of that, okay? And that's kind of like, well, I had a house payment due. What else was I going to do, right? And so that's a little bit of story. I've always been in motorsports. I still ride motocross. I enjoy it very, very much. And then family inspiration. This is just some of the lifestyle we've been able to live. There's my mom there, wonderful lady. She was classy, the classiest lady I ever met. And in fact, she was the very first person in Beverly Hills to own a boutique in her 20s. And so just very ambitious. Passions, man, I love motorsports. I'm a pilot, love aviation, own several planes as a result of the success we've had, and racing cars, and that's at Skip Barber School of Racing. And see, we have the opportunity. See, there's the long game and short game. Now, you have to make a living, so production's necessary, right? You have to make a living. But you create a lifestyle while you're making a living. And that's the long game. And at some point down, now, if you enjoy doing real estate, continue to do that forever if you want, but do it on your terms, not everybody else's terms. And so leverage duplication. I don't know if you're familiar with the expansion share in this program. I'm not going to go into all these details. It's amazing. I'm very, very familiar with the models out there in network marketing and real estate and so forth, and nothing compares to this model. I tell you, Glenn Sanford was a genius in putting this thing together. I know he had help and everything, but I mean, that you get paid regardless of your width a certain amount. That rewards somebody that's not really into recruiting, but happens to run across somebody who's very successful and becomes successful. And so this is just kind of this. I have to put a plug in for a track boss. Randy Bird is my coach, and he's an amazing, amazing guy. And I've never had a coach outside of my mentors in network marketing, Jim and Margie Floor, which was actually mentors for Brent also. Amazing, amazing people. They're in the 80s now, and we see them all the time. But nobody really to coach me and challenge me like Randy does. And this Attract Boss, I highly recommend. You want to really be proficient at agent attraction. I know it's kind of a shameless plug, and everything. Now, I'm not going to benefit from it, but go ahead, get on that program. At least try it out. It's very, very powerful. But this is kind of a list of what you do. And then, I love this. The most successful agents, when it's time to go home, make one more call. I love the people that got me involved in the other businesses and so forth, but when they went home, I was still working. I passed them all up, incidentally. And so this is a formula. I'm kind of a concrete sequential thinker, I think, and I like formulas. And I don't like to do the details, but I love the details, if that makes sense. And so persistency, consistency, and frequency times core. What's core? It's the agent attraction part of the business. It's doing the things to develop. I mean, it's having 2 or 3 appointments a week. It's, or more, all those kinds of things. But times core equals momentum and time. So it starts out, hey, I wanted this. I mean, when you see this model, you can't unsee it, right? And it gets in your heart, or it actually gets in your head first. This is logical. Why wouldn't anybody pass this thing up? It just blows my mind when I sit down and they just don't understand it. Oh, here's the thing. You've been given the gift of seeing it. How many people have we actually shown this to people and they don't see it? You've been given the gift to see it. And when you've been given the gift to see it, you now have the responsibility to build it. Because God is telling you something. You can reach so many people helping them through this business. You've been given the responsibility. And if you don't use that, if you don't use it, you lose it. There'll be a period of time where you missed it. Don't let that happen to you. But anyway, so it gets in your, you got the want, and then you start hearing these stories like over this last couple of days. It starts getting in your heart. And pretty soon it goes from your heart to your gut to your feet, and you start running with it. I got to a point where I got sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired that I was going to do something about it. And that's what we did. And and continue to do. And when that happens, when you hit that point B, this thing grows exponential. Listen to Brent and James' story, how their business grew. Mine hasn't grown that fast, but it's exponential because they put all the effort up front and put in width. Go 30 wide as fast as possible. And then it just gets to freedom. Your effort's the same, and your income's like way up here. And then you just keep climbing. And so wealth chart, keep that in front of you. What is measured is accomplished. And so keep it in front of you all the time. What is measured is improved on and accomplished. What's the secret? I'll tell you, this is a secret to every organization we build or every business we built, and as we build it to event to event. Because the secret is show up and bring somebody. Set your goals from event to event. Think about this last couple days. You can't give somebody individually what they got this weekend or this week. I'm used to weekends. Anyway, but build event to event. So I always set goals event to event. Before coming down here to speak, I was on the phone with 3 or 4 people getting them to Cabo. You can't, you want to leverage, you want maximum leverage in your business, event to event. It's amazing because going from point A, where they see the business, to point B, where they're building it, that happens at an event. Major decisions are made at major events. We call it meeting magic. And set your goals, have your list. If you don't write it down, it doesn't exist. Have your goals, each team, how many people in each team you're going to bring, and live by your calendar, not your emotion. That's something I learned early on. If it was in my calendar, it didn't matter how I felt, I was going to do it. So I always put everything in the calendar. And that saying there, I've had that for over 45 years. I framed it 45 years ago. It came out of Tommy Hopkins, and it says, I must do the most productive thing at every given moment. That 15 minutes that Jesse talked about, incidentally, Jesse did a phenomenal job. You look at that and say, okay, what's the most important thing I can do? But if you want to build on solid foundation, listen to or watch at least 1 or 2 videos a day right off of Brent's website, podcasts, read 10 pages per day of a productive book. There's a list on Brent's side of the productive books, and we have a huge list also. Incidentally, I've done this for 45 years. I don't think I've missed more than a handful of days. And attend all events, which I already talked about. Proximity is power. You get around the thinking of people that are very, very powerful. Show the model explained at least 2 to 3 times a week. 3 is better. 5 is even better. Okay, I'm just saying when you start out, and show the model explained. Sponsor 2 frontline agents monthly. That's a good pace. If you listen to all the big leaders in this business, Brent did a lot better than that. But if you listen to them, I'm not one that really goes this massive results. I'm just dogmatically consistent. I'm like the hare and the tortoise, and I'm always beating them. Long term. I saw people pass me up so fast in my other businesses, but they couldn't catch me after 4 or 5 years. They just couldn't catch it. And sponsor 2, be a pace setter. The speed of the leader always determines the pace of the pack. So you got to be the leader and embrace and follow a proven system and maximize your leverage. And of course, this is Brent's site. I'm on this all the time. I should just have just one little link that just goes to it, which I kind of do, I guess. Huh? We need to be an app, that's right. But focus and mindset. That's what it's all about. Mindset, once you get your mind right, everything else follows. So your future is created by what you do today, not tomorrow. There's a couple quotes. Now my computer went to sleep again. Okay. Oops. Let me get down to the bottom here. A couple things that motivated me. I like one-liner sayings. I know Brent does too. We just kind of grew up that way. And so some of these are my one-liners, and that is, I like to, if you're like me, and I know I am, there are sayings and quotes that motivate me. Success is simple. Be willing to do what others are not willing to do so you can live a lifestyle they will never live because they weren't willing to do it. I heard somebody do a similar quote to that. Make this your magnificent obsession. This is by John Wooden. That, I tell you, reading his books, I mean, he's just principle-based, just awesome stuff. And this is a canvas in which you can paint your masterpiece. EXP is a canvas. Look at the masterpiece that Brent and James and Gene and Susan and all the other big leaders have built. Amazing, amazing painting. But ready, fire, aim. You know, don't get everything. See, don't wait to get good to show the business to people. You show the business to get good. You know, so ready, fire, aim. Success doesn't happen in a day, it happens daily. I have just a mantra in my business. It's kind of myself, meet two, find two, set an appointment a day. That's just kind of my mantra for years. Be the victor, not the victim. This is a great one. Big, strong leader on stage, the very first event I went to, he said, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it is the size of the fight in the dog. I love that one. He says, if it's too tough for you, it's just right for me. I don't know why that stuff fires me up. It just does. And and then that's another thing, that because people get distracted, especially in today's media. It says, be aware of the competing affections of lesser things. Do not let your todays murder your tomorrows. Put life in your dreams tomorrow by what you do today. Procrastination's always been failure on the installment plan. And so adversity is a canvas, which I already talked about, which you paint your masterpiece. Adversity caused people to break and others to break records. That's Lewis Hamilton, the famous F1 driver. Long-term results create short-term focus and effort and have aggressive patience. It is a long game, a marathon, not a sprint. Long-term results require that short-term focus, and you must have a strong study habit and work habit. See, today is the tomorrow you were talking about yesterday. So stop procrastinating. Put life in your dreams by what you do today. Your future self will thank you. And I'm just going to end. TNT, today, not tomorrow. Been great to be sharing with you.